Today we'll be working in my workbook called The Chronological Study of the End Times, Part 1. Looking at the table of contents, we've already worked on rapture, which corresponds nicely to chapter 4 of Revelations. Then we talked about the events that have to be in place before tribulation, things like the League of 10 Nations, the rise of Babylon, the Gog and Magog war, and the one world religion. Whether they are done before rapture or between rapture and tribulation, I don't know. I personally feel there's about 3 to 5 years between rapture and tribulation, mostly because of the complete chaos and the Antichrist has to get into position. And I just don't see that happening before rapture because the Christians don't know who the Antichrist is because he rises after. So that's my own personal belief, though. There's only a couple hints that it shows that it's 3 to 5 years after, but that's one of them. Then we started the seven seals. First, we talked about the title deed to earth given from God to Jesus. And he's the one that opens the seals. He's the one that's responsible for all the events that happen on earth, by the way. So then we come to the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Now, the four horsemen are the first four seals, but I talk a little bit about that they have actually come before in Zechariah. Now, the first seal is open, and that's the Antichrist. And we have a lot of description of the Antichrist, so we can be able to tell who he is. Then, before the second seal, a peace treaty between Israel and her neighbors, her enemies, is signed. That's the official date of the treaty, of the tribulation. The temple will have to be rebuilt. Now, I'm assuming it's because now they've signed a peace treaty and can, but it could literally have been started before rapture too, but it has to be completed and finished before mid-trib. So I've placed it here, but that doesn't mean that it's guaranteed there. Then, second seal is opened. War. Not everybody accepts the Antichrist as being the leader of the whole world, and so war breaks out. That's World War III, in which case food becomes scarce. That's third seal. The food becomes scarce. And it literally is the rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer. Now, the fourth seal opens and becomes death. Well, you can have scarcity of food and you have war, and now, of course, death. And so that's what happens there. Now, the fifth seal is like a reverse. It isn't a judgment upon the earth, but it's kind of the result of something happening. And in this case, it's the martyrs under the altar. And this is actually a very fascinating time because this talks about major persecution of the Christians during tribulation. They get beheaded mostly, and which is one reason why people feel that the one world religion is Muslim based, but we don't know that for sure. We have a couple choices in the one world religion focus. They're all one world religion is one religion, but who's in charge of anything? Anyway, the martyrs under the altar. The reason why this is such an interesting scripture is it's one of the few scriptures that give the indication that people in heaven know what's going on earth below. So take a look at it and realize they are aware that the people who have killed them have not yet been killed. And there's a sense of time in this scripture too. So it's kind of an interesting passage. Sixth seal, I am going to be doing, okay. The sixth seal now is cosmic trebles. This is where we hear the scroll, the sky like a scroll is rolled back. We don't exactly know what that means, but it could mean as simple as our atmosphere is gone, but then how do we breathe? So there could be a tear in the atmosphere. But after this, more asteroids hit the Earth. So maybe the protective shield is around the Earth is gone. We don't know exactly, but there's hailstones and there's sun is darkened and the moon is darkened and the whole thing. So that's cosmic trebles. That's the sixth seal. Now, the seventh seal is going to be the trumpets. So before the trumpets start, holding the trumpets back are the four angels and of the four corners of the earth, which Does sound strange since the world is round, but we talk about north, south, east, west as if they're corners too. So anyway, the trumpets are held back in time for the 144,000 Jewish evangelists to be sealed on their forehead. Now, I don't think this is actually going to be seen, the seal, um, because we are sealed now when there's nothing on our foreheads, but they will be like Paul, Messianic Jews who have realized that Christ is the Messiah, and there'll be 12,000 from each tribe. Some people have asked, well, how is that possible? But realize our DNA and testing at this point has come down in such a way that people can now identify which Jewish tribe they are a part of. So that's part of the reason why we can get 12,000 from each tribe. Anyway, they have to be sealed, and then up in heaven, the martyred saints, that's part of the saints under the altar, but the martyred saints, those that were killed during tribulation, are now praising Jesus because he's about to cleanse the earth. So now we're into the seven trumpets, which is what chapter 4, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So see if I can find the seven trumpets here. That's cosmic troubles. This is probably not it, holding the trumpets back. Praise Jesus. Okay, still not there. Here. The seven trumpets. Okay, so today we're going to take a summary and we'll probably talk about the first trumpet and the fire that's flung onto the earth. Anyway, so summary. Now we've come to the second set of judgments, the trumpets. Before the trumpets are blown, we have an angel who throws fire down onto the earth from the censer of incense. This gesture signifies that the prayers of the saints will now be answered, and we'll read that right after this summary. The four trumpets are blown. These trumpets affect nature. First trumpet, vegetation is destroyed by fire. Second trumpet, meteor hits these seas. Third trumpet, asteroids hit the fresh water. Fourth trumpet, the light of the sun, moon, and stars are affected. At this point, an angel flies into the midst of heaven, warning the inhabitants of the earth of the three woes that are about to come. So we know that the last three trumpets will be more severe than the first four. The bottomless pit is now open, and the demons that have been contained in there are unleashed. This not only corresponds to the fifth trumpet, but as this pit is not closed until Satan is cast in it, the force of evil on earth is increased. The fifth trumpet, the stinging locust-like creatures come out of the bottomless pit and torment those who have not the seal on their foreheads, of God on their foreheads. Then the angels who have been bound to the Euphrates River are now released, and this results in the sixth trumpet, which kills 1/3 of mankind, which is the sixth trumpet. Release of demonic horsemen from the Euphrates River. Before the final trumpet is sounded, which is the bowl judgments, a mighty angel comes down to earth with the little book in his hand. After he swears that there will no longer be any delay in the final judgment on earth, he gives a little book to John to eat. It is as if this book is the balance of the prophecy, as John is now told he will prophesy about people and kings from many nations and languages. Now, before the second half of the tribulation commences, John is given a reed to measure the temple of God in Jerusalem, but he is not to measure the outside court, which is the court of Gentiles. At this point, the two witnesses come. Their preaching will not be welcomed by the faithless of the second half of the tribulation. We know these are the second set of judgments, so they are after the seals. We also know that both the seals and the trumpets are completed in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. Since the two witnesses preached for 3.5 years and died 3 days before the great earthquake, they arrive in Jerusalem just before mid-trib. We won't get to the two witnesses today. Look for the video that has to do with that. But there's a question as to when they arrive. I happen to have them arrive during this time. I think the Left Behind series had them arrive early in the series. Again, it's one of those things where they come, they arrive, they're there for 3.5 years, and they die all in the same chapter. And we know that's not possible. So um, we have to figure out when they start. And this is where I've put them. Anyway, so let's get into the fire is thrown down to earth. Before the trumpets are sounded, fire is thrown down to the earth from the censer of incense, indicating the prayers of the saints have been heard and judgment is now coming. And a look at our graph here. We are in tribulation. We are before mid-trib. And this is where we are. Okay. Okay, so here's the fire thrown on earth. Preparation for the seven trumpets. Revelation 8, 1 through 6. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. Then another angel having a golden censer came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar, which was before his throne. At the smoke of the incense, which was the prayers of the saints, ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there was noises and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. So the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. What seal was open? It's the seventh seal. How long was there silence in heaven? About a half an hour. What is the incense offered with? With the prayers of the saints. What is the incense? Okay. What did the angel fill the censer with? Took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar. What did he do with this fire? He threw it to earth. What was the result of the fire being thrown to earth? There was and there was noises, thunderings, lightnings, and earthquake. Okay, let's see if we can make sense of some of this. What does it mean there was silence in heaven for a half an hour? Although we do not understand why precise timing is shown here, we do know that heaven is usually live with joyful music and praise, so silence would indicate a major event is about to happen. Heaven is usually outside of time. Think of it like, well, the best description I have is when you dream, all these events happen, and it could feel like it's a long, long time, and then you wake up and you're still back in your bed. Heaven is kind of outside of time in that respect. Why was the same censer used for fire from the altar that was just used for incense that accompanied the prayers of the saints? We have several instances in the Bible that talk about the incense burning to bring the prayers of the people up to God. The original temple in Jerusalem, Solomon's temple, was specifically instructed to have a censer to burn incense. Exodus 30, 7 through 8. Aaron shall burn on it sweet incense every morning when he tends to the lamps. He shall burn incense on it, and when the Aaron lights the lamps at twilight, he shall burn incense on it and perpetual incense before the Lord throughout your generations. In the book of Luke, we see the direct relationship with the burning of incense and prayers. Luke 1, 8 through 10. So it was that while he was serving as priest before God in the order of his division, according to the custom of the priesthood, his lot fell to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord, and the whole multitude of the people were praying outside at the hour of incense. Twice in the book of Revelation, we see the connection of incense with the prayers of the saints, both here and in Revelation 5. Revelation 5:8. Now when he had taken the scroll, the four living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and golden bowls of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. God also has used the throwing of fire or coals in other instances in the Bible to pronounce judgment. Ezekiel 10:2. Then he spoke to the man clothed in linen and said, "Go in among the wheels, under the cherub, fill your hands with coals of fire from among the cherubim, and scatter them over the city." Here, the direct relationship of the fire with the prayers of the saints indicates that God is responding to their prayers and supplications by punishing those who caused all their pain and suffering. Why did the fire cause noise, thunderings, lightning, and earthquakes? God's actions usually cause thunderings, lightnings, and earthquakes. We see this with Moses when he's communicating with God on the mountaintop. Exodus 19:16 through 18. Then it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunderings and lightnings, and a thick cloud on the mountain, and the sound of the trumpet was very loud, so that the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was completely in smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended to like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. What does it mean that there was silence in heaven for about an hour? For half an hour. Half an hour, Renee, not an hour. I only think that things were about to happen. So it was a short period of time. Does the fact that the same censer to bring the prayers of the saints to God is used to throw that fire down upon the earth mean anything? Why do you think this? Yes, I think it's related. The prayers of the saints, the prayers of the martyred saints throughout tribulation are now going to be thrust on earth, the punishment thereof. So now we're going to talk about the first trumpet. Yeah. First trumpet is blown, and that trees and grass are burned. The first trumpet will cause fire to burn a third of the trees and grass. This will affect both the oxygen and the climate of the earth. Again, we're still in tribulation, the first half of it. So main scripture is Revelation 8:7. The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. And a related scripture, Joel 2:30, and I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. What did the first angel sound? A trumpet. What was thrown to the earth? Hail and fire mixed with blood. They were thrown to the earth. How much of the trees were burned up? A third of the trees. How much of the green grass was burned up? All of the green grass was burned up. Why is hail mixed with fire? When the hail put out the fire, what does the blood come from? Is it truly blood or only when it looks like blood? One possibility is that this is all from a volcano as a result of prior cosmic disturbances. When a volcano erupts, it bursts forth fire, a hail of debris, and dark substance, which would look like blood, or kill birds in the air, which would cause blood to flow. If this is true, how would this volcano erupting be different than the ones we've already had? Perhaps because this volcano is in the center of a large population like Yellowstone. Or based on the sixth seal, which showed cosmic disturbances, perhaps all of this is caused by asteroids hitting the Earth. Perhaps all the judgment events of the trumpets are due to the Earth being hit multiple times with items from the sky. What is the result of 1/3 of the trees and all the green grass being burned? Trees supply several things. They produce fruit, nuts, they provide shade, they are homes to small animals, and they produce oxygen. 1/3 reduction of trees would mean the supply of food would be diminished. Shade, especially to a place like the Amazon, would be diminished, which would affect the plants and animals in the ground and probably increase the heat of the earth. Small animals such as squirrels and birds may die to either the fire or losing their homes, and the oxygen of all of us living creatures need to breathe will be reduced. The burning of all the green grass reduces the feed for the grazing animals, which also reduces our food supply. Do you think the hail, fire, and blood come from natural phenomenon like a volcano or an item from space, or do you think it's unique? Why do you believe this? Well, a volcano sounds good. I have no idea. It could be unique. It could be just how he describes it. Why only a third of the trees destroyed versus all the grass? The grass can grow again quickly. A third of the trees can't grow again quickly. That's my thoughts. So anyway, I believe that's the last. Yep, that's the last of this video. I hope you will continue our series. Thank you and have a wonderful day.